The invasion begins. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the grounds of Evergreen High School. Zara Mitchell, a lean, athletic 17-year-old with piercing green eyes, sat perched on the edge of her seat in the last class of the day. Her fingers drummed an impatient rhythm on the desk as she watched the seconds tick by on the ancient clock above the whiteboard. As the final bell rang, Zara was the first out the door, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She moved with purpose, weaving through the crowded hallways with practiced ease. To the casual observer, she looked like any other teenager eager to escape the confines of high school. But Zara was far from ordinary. Since childhood, Zara had been trained in secret by her mother, a former operative for a clandestine government organization known as AEGIS. The group's sole purpose was to prepare for and defend against potential extraterrestrial threats. For years, Zara had dismissed her mother's warnings as paranoid delusions. Now, as she pushed open the heavy doors and stepped into the crisp autumn air, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The sky, which had been clear blue moments ago, was now streaked with strange, shimmering patterns. Zara's hand instinctively went to the small device concealed in her jacket pocket, a gift from her mother on her 16th birthday. The alien detection meter, or ADM, was vibrating softly against her fingertips. "No," Zara whispered, her heart racing. "Not now. Not here." As if in response to her words, a deafening boom shook the ground. Students stumbled, some falling to their knees as panic began to spread. Zara's training kicked in instantly. She scanned the area, assessing potential threats and escape routes. That's when she saw them. Descending from the wavering sky were sleek, metallic pods, each about the size of a car. They moved with impossible speed and precision, touching down on the school's football field and parking lot. As the pods opened with a hiss of released pressure, Zara's worst fears were realized. Alien scouts emerged, their bodies a grotesque fusion of organic matter and advanced technology. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with elongated limbs and faces that seemed to shift and change, making it difficult to focus on any one feature. Their eyes, however, were unmistakable, glowing orbs of swirling energy that radiated malevolence. Chaos erupted around her. Students screamed and ran in all directions, their survival instincts overriding any semblance of order. Teachers shouted futile instructions, their voices lost in the cacophony of terror. Zara knew she had mere moments to act before the situation spiraled completely out of control. She took a deep breath, centering herself as her mother had taught her. Time seemed to slow as her senses sharpened, years of training coalescing into crystal-clear focus. Everyone inside the gym. Zara's voice cut through the panic, commanding and assured beyond her years. "Move quickly and stay low." To her surprise, people listened. Perhaps it was the authority in her tone, or simply the desperate need for direction in the face of the unthinkable. Whatever the reason, a stream of terrified students and staff began making their way towards the gymnasium. Zara shepherded stragglers, her eyes constantly darting between the advancing aliens and the retreating humans. As the last group neared the gym's double doors, a piercing shriek split the air. One of the alien scouts had broken away from the main group, its long strides eating up the distance between it and the fleeing humans. Without hesitation, Zara sprinted towards the creature, her hand reaching into her backpack. In one fluid motion, she withdrew a sleek, metallic cylinder, another gift from her mother. With a flick of her wrist, the cylinder extended into a staff crackling with energy. The alien scout's glowing eyes fixed on Zara, recognizing her as a threat. It lunged forward, impossibly fast, its arm morphing into a wicked-looking blade. Zara ducked and rolled, the alien strike passing inches above her head. She came up swinging, her staff connecting with the creature's midsection. There was a burst of energy and an inhuman screech of pain. The alien staggered back, its form flickering like a faulty hologram. Zara pressed her advantage, unleashing a flurry of strikes honed through countless hours of training. Each blow sent shockwaves of energy coursing through the alien's body. With a final, desperate swipe, the creature caught Zara across the arm, leaving a shallow but painful gash. Gritting her teeth against the pain, Zara channeled all her strength into one last attack. Her staff connected with the alien's head, and in a flash of blinding light, the scout disintegrated into a shower of sparks and ash. Panting heavily, Zara turned to see the last of the students disappearing into the gym. In the distance, more alien scouts were advancing, drawn by the commotion of the fight. She knew she had bought them some time, but the real battle was just beginning. Clutching her injured arm, Zara sprinted for the gym, slipping inside just as the heavy doors slammed shut behind her. The cavernous space was filled with the sounds of frightened whispers and muffled sobs. Hundreds of eyes turned to her, a mix of fear, confusion, and desperate hope written on every face. Zara took a deep breath, wincing slightly at the pain in her arm. This was what she had been training for her entire life, though she had never truly believed the day would come. Now, standing before a terrified crowd as an alien invasion force gathered outside, she knew that every decision she made could mean the difference between life and death. "Listen up," Zara called out, her voice steady and determined. "I know you're scared. I am too. But right now, fear is a luxury we can't afford. Those things out there, they're here to hurt us, maybe even worse, but we're not going to let that happen." A murmur ran through the crowd. Zara could see the doubt in their eyes, the disbelief that a fellow student could possibly know what to do in this impossible situation. She needed to convince them, and fast. "My name is Zara Mitchell," she continued, "and I've been trained for this exact scenario. It sounds crazy, I know. But right now, I'm your best chance at survival. So I need you to trust me, and I need your help." She paused, letting her words sink in. Then, with all the authority she could muster, Zara began issuing orders. "I need all the athletes and anyone with first aid training to come forward. Teachers, I need you to help organize everyone else into groups. We're going to secure this building and figure out our next move." To her relief, people began to move. It wasn't perfect, and there was still plenty of fear and confusion, but it was a start. As a group of burly football players approached her, ready to help, Zara allowed herself a small smile. They had survived the initial attack, and they were organizing. It wasn't much, but it was something. Outside, the alien scouts gathered, their otherworldly forms casting long shadows in the fading daylight. They seemed to be regrouping, perhaps surprised by the resistance they had encountered. Zara knew they wouldn't wait long before making their next move. As she began directing the fortification of the gym, Zara's mind raced with questions. Why here? Why now? And most importantly, what did these aliens really want? She had a sinking feeling that this attack on Evergreen High was just the beginning of something much, much bigger. With grim determination, Zara pushed those thoughts aside. Right now, her focus had to be on the immediate threat. She had a school full of terrified people looking to her for leadership and an alien force preparing to attack. Whatever came next, Zara knew one thing for certain. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. As the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging Evergreen High into darkness, Zara Mitchell stood ready to face whatever the night might bring. The invasion had begun, but so too had humanity's resistance. And if Zara had anything to say about it, this would be a night the alien scouts would never forget. Uncovering the truth. The gymnasium of Evergreen High had transformed into a fortress of desperation. Zara Mitchell stood atop a stack of gym mats, surveying the organized chaos below. In the hours since the initial attack, she had managed to turn a group of terrified teenagers and shell-shocked adults into a functioning survival unit. Barricades secure. Zara called out to Jason, the captain of the football team, who had proven to be an invaluable ally. "As solid as we can make them," Jason replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "But I don't know how long they'll hold against whatever those things are." Zara nodded grimly. The makeshift defenses, A hodgepodge of overturned tables, stacked chairs, and anything else they could find seemed pitiful in the face of the alien threat. But it was all they had. "It'll have to do," she said, jumping down from her perch. "How are we on supplies?" Lisa, the student body president, approached with a tablet in hand. "We've rationed the vending machines and cafeteria stores. If we're careful, we have enough food and water for 3 days. Maybe 4. "Good work," Zora said, feeling a twinge of pride in her classmates' resourcefulness. "And communications?" "Still down," came the frustrated voice of Mr. Patel, the computer science teacher. He was hunched over an array of laptops and smartphones. "Cell towers are jammed. Internet's out. We're cut off." Zora's hand went to the alien detection meter in her pocket. The device was humming constantly now, a grim reminder of the danger surrounding them. She knew they couldn't stay trapped in the gym forever. Sooner or later, they would need to make a move. As if reading her thoughts, a thunderous boom shook the building. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and terrified whimpers rose from the huddled groups of students. "They're testing the defenses," Zora muttered. She turned to Jason. "I need eyes outside. Can you get someone up to the roof?" Jason nodded, already moving to select a few of his trusted teammates for the dangerous task. As he left, Mr. Reeves, the principal, approached Zora with a concerned frown. "Miss Mitchell," he began, his voice low, "I appreciate everything you're doing. But how do you know all this? Who are you, really?" Zora met his gaze, seeing the mix of fear and suspicion in his eyes. She knew this moment would come eventually. Taking a deep breath, she made a decision. "Everyone, gather round," she called out. As the occupants of the gym clustered around her, Zora steeled herself for what she was about to reveal. "I know you're all wondering how I seem to know what to do," she began. "The truth is, I've been trained for this. My mother, she works for a secret organization called AEGIs. They'd been preparing for alien contact for decades." A murmur ran through the crowd. Zora could see the disbelief on many faces, but also a glimmer of hope. She pressed on. "I know it sounds crazy. Trust me, until today, I thought it was too. But everything my mom taught me, the combat training, the alien tech, all of it, it's real. And right now, it might be our only chance of surviving this." She pulled out the alien detection meter, holding it up for all to see. "This device can detect alien presence and potentially interfere with their technology. But to use it effectively, I need to get closer to their ships. You want to go out there?" Lisa gasped. "That's suicide." Zara shook her head. "It's a risk, yes, but it's our best shot at understanding what we're up against and finding a way to fight back." Before anyone could object further, Jason's voice crackled over a walkie-talkie. "Zara, you need to see this. North side of the building. You've got to see it for yourself." Heart pounding, Zara raced up the stairs to the roof access, taking them 2 at a time. As she emerged into the cool night air, the sight before her stole her breath away. The alien scouts had constructed some sort of device in the parking lot. It was a towering spire of pulsing energy, shooting a beam of light straight up into the sky. As Zara watched, the beam seemed to punch a hole in the very fabric of reality, creating a swirling vortex in the air above. "What the hell is that?" Jason whispered, his face pale in the eerie light. Zara's mind raced, piecing together everything she had learned from her mother's lessons. "It's a portal," she breathed. "They're not just scouts. This is a full-scale invasion force." As if to confirm her words, shapes began to emerge from the vortex. Larger, more monstrous versions of the scouts they had encountered earlier. Weapons of unimaginable destructive power, and at the center of it all, a being that could only be their leader, a towering figure of shadows and crackling energy. Zara's blood ran cold as realization dawned. "This isn't just about our school," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "They're using Evergreen as a beachhead. Once that portal is fully operational, They'll have an open door to invade the entire planet. Jason finished, horror etched on his face. Zara nodded grimly. We need to shut it down. Now. As they turned to head back inside, a piercing shriek split the air. 3 alien scouts had spotted them, their grotesque forms scrambling up the side of the building with impossible speed. Run, Zara yelled, pushing Jason towards the roof access door. She pulled out her energy staff, expanding it to its full length as she prepared to face the oncoming threat. The first scout reached the roof's edge, its glowing eyes fixed on Zara with predatory intent. It lunged forward, razor-sharp claws slicing through the air. Zara ducked and rolled, coming up behind the creature and striking it hard across its back. The alien stumbled, momentarily disoriented by the energy pulse from her weapon. But there was no time to press her advantage. The other 2 scouts had joined the fray, circling Zara with inhuman grace. She spun her staff in a defensive pattern, trying to keep all 3 attackers at bay. A claw grazed her shoulder, tearing through her jacket and drawing blood. Gritting her teeth against the pain, Zara feinted left before striking hard to her right. Her staff connected with one scout's head, sending it tumbling off the roof with an unearthly screech. 1 down, 2 to go. The remaining scouts seemed to communicate silently, coordinating their attacks with terrifying precision. Zara found herself driven back, step by step, towards the edge of the roof. Her muscles burned with exertion, and she knew she couldn't keep this up much longer. Just as she felt her heel touch the roof's edge, a battle cry rang out. Jason had returned, wielding a fire axe he must have grabbed from inside. He swung the axe in a wild arc, catching one of the aliens across its midsection. The creature howled in pain, its form flickering like a faulty hologram. Seizing the moment of distraction, Zara lunged forward, dragging her staff into the chest of the other scout. There was a blinding flash of energy, and the alien disintegrated into a shower of sparks. Together, Zara and Jason made short work of the final scout. As the last echoes of the battle faded, they stood panting, surrounded by the eerie quiet of the night. Thanks, Zara managed between breaths. That was too close. Jason nodded, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and exhilaration. What now? Before Zara could answer, a familiar voice crackled from her pocket. Zara, can you hear me? With trembling hands, Zara pulled out the alien detection meter. But it wasn't detecting aliens anymore. Somehow, it had transformed into a communications device. Mom. Zara gasped. Is that you? Oh, thank God, her mother's voice came through, thick with emotion. Listen carefully, sweetheart. We don't have much time. Aegeus, we were wrong. We thought we were prepared, but this invasion, it's beyond anything we imagined. Zara's heart sank. If Aegis was overwhelmed, what hope did they have? But there's still a chance, her mother continued urgently. The device I gave you, it's more than just a detector. It's a key, a failsafe we built into their technology years ago, when we first discovered their existence. If you can get it close enough to their portal generator, I can shut it down. Zara finished, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. Yes, but Zara, listen to me. It's a one-way trip. Once activated, the failsafe will create a feedback loop in their entire network. It'll destroy their invasion force, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Zara closed her eyes, understanding the weight of the choice before her. I'll do it, she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. Zara, no, Jason protested. There has to be another way. But Zara's mind was made up. She turned to Jason, placing a hand on his shoulder. Get everyone in the gym to the basement. Once that portal goes, I don't know what kind of shockwave it'll create. You need to keep them safe. Jason looked like he wanted to argue, but the determination in Zara's eyes stopped him. He nodded, pulling her into a quick, fierce hug before heading back inside. Alone on the roof, Zara took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. The alien portal pulsed ominously in the distance, a gateway to Earth's destruction. But not if she could help it. With one last look at the school that had been her home for the past 4 years, Zora Mitchell stepped off the roof and into the darkness. The fate of humanity rested in her hands, and she was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice to save her world. As she disappeared into the shadows, the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. A new day was coming, and with it, the final battle for Earth's survival. The counterattack. The pre-dawn air was thick with tension as Zara crouched behind a dumpster, her eyes fixed on the alien portal looming in the distance. The pulsing energy spire cast an eerie glow across the school grounds, its otherworldly hum a constant reminder of the threat they faced. Zara's mind raced, formulating and discarding plans as quickly as they came. The alien detection meter, no, the fail-safe key, felt heavy in her pocket. Her mother's words echoed in her head. A one-way trip. But as she watched another wave of alien reinforcements emerge from the portal, she knew she couldn't act rashly. One mistake, and it would all be over. A soft rustle behind her made Zara spin, her energy staff at the ready. She relaxed slightly when she saw Jason's familiar face emerge from the shadows, followed by Lisa and Mr. Patel. "I thought I told you to stay in the basement," Zara hissed, though she couldn't hide the relief in her voice. Jason shrugged, a hint of his usual cockiness returning. "Since when do I listen to orders?" "We couldn't let you do this alone," Lisa added, her eyes filled with determination despite the fear evident on her face. Mr. Patel nodded, holding up a backpack. "And we thought you might need some help." Zara wanted to protest, to send them back to relative safety. But as she looked at their resolute faces, she realized something important. This wasn't just her fight anymore. It was theirs too. "All right," she said, making a quick decision. "But we do this smart. We're outnumbered and outgunned, so we need to be clever." She gestured for them to huddle closer, her voice dropping to a whisper as she outlined her plan. It was risky, bordering on insane, but it was the best shot they had. "Mr. Patel, you said the aliens were jamming our communications, right?" Zara asked. The teacher nodded. "Yes, but I've been working on a workaround. If I can access the school's old ham radio in the AV room, I might be able to broadcast on a frequency they're not blocking." "Perfect," Zara said. "We need to get word out to any military or government forces that might be mobilizing. They need to know what we're dealing with here." She turned to Lisa. "You know every inch of this school. I need you to coordinate from inside, using the PA system to direct our people. We're going to turn this whole building into one big trap for those alien bastards." Lisa's eyes widened, but she nodded firmly. "I can do that." "Jason," Zora continued, "I need you to gather every athlete, every fighter we've got. We're going to run interference, keep the aliens distracted while I make for that portal." "What about the rest of the students and staff?" Jason asked. Zara's expression hardened. "We arm them with whatever we can find. Improvised weapons, chemistry lab supplies, anything that can give us an edge. This is our home, and we're going to defend it with everything we've got." As the group absorbed her words, a series of explosions rocked the ground. The aliens were making another push towards the school. "Looks like our time's up," Zara said grimly. "Let's move." The next hour was a blur of frantic activity. Mr. Patel raced to the AV room, working feverishly to get the old radio operational. Lisa's voice echoed through the school halls, directing the setup of traps and barricades with the precision of a military tactician. Jason rallied the strongest students, arming them with makeshift weapons and positioning them at key points throughout the building. Zara moved from group to group, offering encouragement, adjusting plans, and preparing everyone for the fight of their lives. As she worked, she couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. These were her classmates, her teachers, people she had grown up with, and faced with an unimaginable threat, they were rising to the occasion with courage and ingenuity that took her breath away. Just as the sun began to peek over the horizon, Bathing the school in a golden light, the alien assault began in earnest. The front doors of the school exploded inward, and a wave of scouts poured in. But this time, Evergreen High was ready for them. The first group of aliens triggered a tripwire, sending a cascade of hydrochloric acid from the chemistry lab raining down on them. Their inhuman shrieks filled the air as the corrosive liquid ate through their biomechanical bodies. In the cafeteria, the football team had overturned heavy tables, creating a barricade from which they launched a barrage of improvised projectiles. Softball-sized spheres of aluminum foil, filled with drain cleaner and shards of metal, exploded on impact, shredding the alien scouts' outer layers. The aliens pushed forward, their superior technology and physiology giving them an edge. But at every turn, they were met with fierce resistance. The humans of Evergreen High fought with desperate courage, using every trick and tool at their disposal. In the midst of the chaos, Zara led a small team towards the back of the school. They moved silently, using the distraction of the main battle to slip past the alien perimeter. As they neared the portal, Zara felt the fail-safe key vibrating in her pocket, reacting to the proximity of alien tech. "Okay," she whispered to her team. "This is it. Remember the plan. No matter what happens to me, that portal has to come down." With a deep breath, Zara stepped out from their cover, energy staff in hand. "Hey, ugly," she shouted at the nearest alien guard. "Looking for me?" The creature's head snapped towards her, its glowing eyes narrowing in recognition. It let out a piercing shriek, alerting its comrades. In moments, Zara found herself surrounded by a ring of advancing aliens. She fought like a whirlwind, her staff a blur of motion as she fended off attacks from all sides. But for every alien she struck down, two more seemed to take its place. Slowly but surely they were herding her towards the portal. Just when it seemed like she would be overwhelmed, a familiar battle cry rang out. Jason and his team burst from hiding, engaging the aliens with furious intensity. The distraction was all Zara needed. With a burst of speed, she sprinted towards the portal's base. The failsafe key was burning hot in her hand now as she pulled it out. The alien leader, a towering figure of shadow and energy, emerged from the portal with a roar of rage. It lunged for Zara, massive claws extended. Time seemed to slow. Zara could see her friends fighting desperately behind her, could feel the heat of the alien leader's approach. With all her strength, she plunged the failsafe key into the portal's control panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing apart, the portal began to collapse in on itself. The alien leader was caught in the vortex, its form twisting and distorting as it was pulled back through. Zara felt the energy building to a crescendo. This was it. The failsafe was activating, and the resulting explosion would take out the entire alien network, and her along with it. She closed her eyes, ready to accept her fate. But suddenly, strong arms wrapped around her waist, yanking her back. She caught a glimpse of Jason's determined face as he pulled her clear of the portal just as it imploded. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. When Zara's vision cleared, she saw the sky filled with falling debris, the remnants of the alien ships caught in the failsafe's chain reaction. Slowly, painfully, Zara sat up. All around her, students and aliens alike were picking themselves up, dazed by the explosion. But where the aliens moved with confusion and fear, the humans' faces showed dawning realization and hope. Did we just win? Lisa's incredulous voice came over Zara's walkie-talkie. Zara looked at the spot where the portal had stood, now nothing more than a scorched crater. She thought of the alien leader, sucked back through to wherever they had come from. A slow smile spread across her face. "Yeah," she said, her voice filled with wonder and pride. "I think we did." As the sun rose fully over Evergreen High, casting long shadows across the battle-scarred grounds, a cheer began to build. It started low, just a few voices, but quickly swelled as more and more people realized what had happened. They had faced an alien invasion force, and against all odds, they had won. Zara felt tears stinging her eyes as she looked at her friends, her classmates, her teachers. They were battered, bruised, and exhausted, but they were alive, and they had just saved the world. In the distance, she could hear the approaching sound of military helicopters. Help was finally arriving, but Zara knew the truth. The real heroes were right here, in this unlikely group of high school students and staff who had refused to give up in the face of impossible odds. As medical teams began to arrive and government officials swarmed the area, Zara found herself pulled into a group hug with Jason, Lisa, and Mr. Pottle. They were laughing and crying, the relief and joy of survival washing over them. "So," Jason said, a mischievous glint in his eye, despite his exhaustion, "think this'll get us out of finals week?" The laughter that erupted from the group was cathartic, releasing all the tension and fear of the past hours. As Zara looked around at the smiling, tearful faces of her friends, she felt a profound sense of gratitude and purpose. The alien invasion had been repelled, but Zara knew this was just the beginning. There would be questions to answer, preparations to make for potential future attacks. But looking at the strength and resilience of the people around her, Zara felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged victorious, and Zara Mitchell, along with the brave students and staff of Evergreen High, had led the way. Betrayal and sacrifice. The days following the Battle of Evergreen High were a whirlwind of debriefings, medical checkups, and media frenzy. Zara found herself thrust into the spotlight as the unlikely hero who had led a group of high school students to victory against an alien invasion. But even as the world celebrated their triumph, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was a week after the attack when Zara was finally allowed to return home. As she walked through the front door, she was immediately enveloped in her mother's tight embrace. "I'm so proud of you," her mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. "But we're not out of danger yet." Zara pulled back, searching her mother's face. "What do you mean?" "We destroyed the portal. The invasion force was just the beginning," her mother finished grimly. She led Zara to the living room, where screens displayed data and satellite imagery. AEGIS has been monitoring global communications. There are reports of similar portals opening up all over the world. Zara felt her heart sink. But the failsafe, shouldn't it have taken out their entire network? Her mother shook her head. It should have. The fact that it didn't means one thing. They had inside help, someone who knew about the failsafe and found a way to protect their core systems. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. A traitor in AEGIS. Before her mother could respond, a sharp knock at the door made them both jump. Zara's mother moved swiftly, pulling the weapon from a hidden compartment in the coffee table. She motioned for Zara to stay back as she approached the door cautiously. Through the peephole, they saw a familiar face. Mr. Reeves, the principal of Evergreen High. Zara's mother relaxed slightly, lowering her weapon as she opened the door. "Mr. Reeves, what are you doing here?" Zara asked, stepping forward. The principal's face was a mask of concern. "Zara, thank goodness you're all right. There's been another attack at the school. We need your help." Zara exchanged a quick glance with her mother. This could be the break they needed to understand what was really going on. "Okay, let me grab my gear." As Zara turned to gather her things, she missed the subtle nod that passed between her mother and Mr. Reeves. By the time she returned, her mother was slumped against the wall, a small dart protruding from her neck. "Mom!" Zara cried out, rushing to her side. But before she could reach her, strong arms grabbed her from behind. She struggled, but a sweet-smelling cloth was pressed over her nose and mouth. As darkness closed in, the last thing Zara saw was Mr. Reeves' face, his expression no longer one of concern, but of cold satisfaction. When Zara regained consciousness, she found herself in a dimly lit room that looked like an abandoned warehouse. Her hands were bound behind her back, and her energy staff was nowhere to be seen. As her vision cleared, she made out two figures standing nearby, Mr. Reeves and a tall, imposing woman she didn't recognize. "Ah, our young hero awakens," the woman said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I must say, you've caused us quite a bit of trouble." Zara struggled against her bonds, her mind racing. "Who are you? What do you want?" Mr. Reeves stepped forward, his familiar face twisted into a sneer. "Come now, Zara. Surely you've figured it out by now. Your mother certainly did, though not soon enough to save herself." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. You're the traitor. But why? How could you betray humanity like this?" The woman laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "Betray humanity? Oh, you naive child. We're saving humanity. The aliens you've been fighting, they're not invaders. They're our salvation." As Zara listened in horror, the woman explained their twisted logic. The Earth was dying, they claimed, ravaged by climate change and human excess. The aliens had offered a solution, a chance for a select few humans to leave the dying planet and start anew on a world in a distant galaxy. "But it's genocide," Zora protested. "Billions would die." Mr. Reeves shrugged. "A necessary sacrifice for the greater good. And you, Zara, with your heroics at Evergreen High, have become a symbol of resistance, which is why you need to be eliminated." The woman produced a sleek, alien-looking device. "This will broadcast a message to the world, supposedly from you, urging surrender to the aliens. Your death will break the spirit of the resistance." Zara's mind raced, searching for a way out. As the woman approached with the device, Zara noticed something out of the corner of her eye, a familiar face peeking through a high window. Jason. In that moment, Zara knew what she had to do. As the woman leaned in to activate the device, Zara threw herself backward, knocking over the chair she was tied to. The sudden movement caught her captors off guard, giving Jason and whoever was with him the opening they needed. The window shattered as Jason and a team of students from Evergreen High burst in. In the chaos that followed, Zara managed to work her bonds loose. She grabbed her energy staff, which had been carelessly left on a nearby table, and joined the fray. The fight was intense but brief. Mr. Reeves and the woman, caught off guard by the sudden assault, were quickly overwhelmed. As the dust settled, Zara found herself face to face with her former principal, her staff pointed at his chest. "It's over," she said, her voice hard. "You've lost." But Mr. Reeves only smiled, a look of fanatical determination in his eyes. "You think this ends with us? The plan is already in motion. The portals will open, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Before anyone could react, he pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. The warehouse was suddenly filled with a blinding light and a deafening roar. Zara felt herself being thrown backward, her world dissolving into chaos and pain. When she came to, the warehouse was in ruins. Jason was helping her to her feet, his face streaked with blood and soot. "Zara, are you okay?" She nodded, wincing at the pain in her ribs. What happened?" Jason's expression was grim. They had some kind of self-destruct device. Mr. Reeves and that woman, they're gone. But Zara, there's something else you need to see. He led her outside, where the night sky was lit up with an otherworldly glow. All across the horizon, massive portals were opening, much larger than the one at Evergreen High. Through them, Zara could see the silhouettes of enormous ships beginning to emerge. "It's happening," she whispered, her heart sinking. "The full invasion." But as she looked around at the determined faces of her friends from Evergreen High, Zara felt a spark of hope reignite in her chest. They had faced impossible odds before and come out victorious. They could do it again. Zara straightened up, ignoring the pain in her body. "All right, listen up. We know what we're up against now. These aliens and their human collaborators think they can break us, but they're wrong. We're humanity's last line of defense, and we're not going down without a fight. As her friends gathered around her, their faces set with determination, Zara began to outline her plan. The odds were stacked against them. The enemy was powerful, and the stakes had never been higher. But looking at the courage and resilience in the eyes of these ordinary teenagers who had become extraordinary heroes, Zara knew one thing for certain. The real battle for Earth was just beginning, and humanity wasn't about to go quietly into the night. Humanity's stand. The dawn broke over a world transformed. Massive alien ships hung in the sky like ominous clouds, their presence a constant reminder of humanity's precarious position. In the heart of what was once a quiet suburban town, Zora Mitchell stood atop the ruins of Evergreen High, surveying the makeshift command center that had sprung up around her. In the days since the revelation of the full-scale invasion, Zara and her team had been working tirelessly. The students of Evergreen High, once just ordinary teenagers, had become the nucleus of a growing resistance movement. Their victory against the initial alien attack had inspired others, and now people from all walks of life were flocking to join their cause. Zara, Jason's voice crackled over the radio. We've got movement on the eastern perimeter. Looks like they're preparing for another push. Zara's jaws set in determination. Copy that. All units, prepare for engagement. Remember, we hold this line no matter what. As she moved through the bustling command center, Zara couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. Lisa had transformed the school's old computer lab into a high-tech communications hub, coordinating with resistance cells across the globe. Mr. Patel and a team of science teachers were working around the clock, reverse engineering alien technology to give humanity an edge. But pride was quickly tempered by the weight of responsibility. Every decision Zara made could mean the difference between life and death for countless people. The loss of her mother still ached like an open wound, driving home the personal cost of this war. A commotion at the entrance to the command center drew Zara's attention. A group of soldiers was escorting someone in. Someone Zara recognized with a jolt of surprise. "Dad?" she gasped, rushing forward. Colonel Mitchell looked worse for wear, his uniform torn and dirty, but his eyes lit up at the sight of his daughter. "Zara, thank God you're all right." As they embraced, Zara felt tears threatening to spill. She hadn't seen her father in years, not since he and her mother had separated over disagreements about her AEGI's training. "But how? Why are you here?" Zara asked, pulling back to look at him. Her father's expression turned grim. "I've been leading a military task force against the invasion. When I heard about what happened here, about your mother," he trailed off, pain etching lines in his face, "I knew I had to find you. And I'm not alone." He gestured behind him, where a diverse group of individuals was entering the command center. Zara recognized some of them from news reports and her mother's files. Leaders in technology, science, and military strategy from around the world. "The resistance here at Evergreen has become a symbol of hope," her father explained. "These people have come to help, to turn this into our last stand against the invasion." As introductions were made and plans began to form, Zara felt a renewed sense of purpose. With these brilliant minds working alongside the raw courage and determination of her friends, they might just have a chance. But their planning session was cut short by the sound of explosions in the distance. The alien forces were making their move. "All units, battle stations," Zara commanded, her voice carrying across the command center. "This is it, people. Everything we fought for comes down to this moment." As everyone rushed to their positions, Zora's father put a hand on her shoulder. "I know I haven't always been there for you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I want you to know, I'm proud of you. So proud. And your mother would be too." Zara nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Thanks, Dad. Now let's go save the world." The battle that followed was unlike anything Zora had experienced before. The aliens attacked with overwhelming force, their advanced technology laying waste to the hastily erected defenses. but the defenders of Earth fought back with everything they had. Zara led from the front lines, her energy staff a blur of motion as she took down alien after alien. Jason and his team executed daring hit-and-run attacks, using the rubble-strewn streets to their advantage. Lysa's voice was a constant presence in their earpieces, coordinating movements and warning of incoming threats. But despite their valiant efforts, the aliens were pushing them back. Zara watched in horror as sections of their perimeter began to crumble under the onslaught. It seemed that no matter how many aliens they took down, more were always there to take their place. Just when all seemed lost, a familiar humming filled the air. Zara looked up to see her alien detection meter, the device that had started it all glowing with an intensity she had never seen before. "The failsafe," she whispered, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. "It's still active." With renewed determination, Zara fought her way towards the alien command ship that loomed over the battlefield. If she could get close enough, maybe she could trigger the failsafe and end this once and for all. The path to the ship was a gauntlet of danger. Alien weapons fire sizzled past her, the air thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded. But Zara pressed on, driven by a force that seemed to come from beyond herself. As she neared the ship, a massive alien figure rose to block her path. It was easily twice her size, its body a nightmarish fusion of organic matter and advanced technology. Zara recognized it as the same type of being she had glimpsed emerging from the portal in the early days of the invasion, the alien leadership. The creature's eyes fixed on Zara, burning with an otherworldly intelligence. When it spoke, the words seemed to bypass her ears and materialize directly in her mind. "You fight well, little human," it said, its mental voice a discordant mix of admiration and disdain. "But surely you must see the futility of your resistance. Your world is dying. We offer salvation for those worthy few who would join us." Zara stood her ground, her staff held ready. "And what about everyone else? The billions you'd leave behind to die? That's not salvation. That's genocide." The alien's form shimmered, as if amused by her defiance. "Such concern for the weak. It is this sentimentality that has doomed your species. But I grow tired of this game. Surrender now, and I will ensure your death is quick." In response, Zara charged forward, her staff crackling with energy. The alien leader met her attack with frightening speed, its limbs morphing into deadly weapons. The two clashed in a furious exchange of blows, their battle a blur of motion against the chaos of the larger conflict raging around them. Zara fought with everything she had, drawing on every lesson, every hardship, every moment that had led her to this point. But the alien's power was overwhelming. A vicious strike sent her flying backward, her staff skittering away across the ground. As Zara struggled to rise, her body screaming in pain, the alien loomed over her. A valiant effort, it said, raising a limb transformed into a wicked blade. But ultimately, futile. But just as the alien was about to strike, a barrage of energy blasts struck it from behind. Zara looked up to see her father leading a charge of resistance fighters. Their weapons, a mix of human and reverse-engineered alien tech, blazing. The distraction was all Zara needed. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged for her fallen staff. As her hand closed around it, she felt a surge of energy unlike anything she had experienced before. The failsafe key, the alien detection meter, and her own indomitable will seem to merge into a single, unstoppable force. With a cry that came from the very depths of her being, Zara thrust the staff forward. It pierced the alien leader's chest, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing apart, a pulse of energy exploded outward from the point of contact. It swept across the battlefield, over the town, and beyond, racing across the globe with impossible speed. Everywhere it touched, alien technology sputtered and died. The massive ships fell from the sky, the portals collapsed in on themselves, and the alien foot soldiers crumpled to the ground. As the light faded and silence fell over the battlefield, Zara found herself standing alone, her staff still extended. The alien leader was gone, along with every trace of the invasion force. For a moment, no one moved. Then, tentatively at first, but with growing volume, cheers began to erupt from the human defenders. Zara felt hands helping her up, heard familiar voices calling her name. As the realization of their victory sank in, she allowed herself to smile. In the days that followed, the full scope of what had happened became clear. The failsafe, amplified by Zara's connection to it, had triggered a cascading failure in all alien technology on Earth. The invasion had been thwarted, not just here, but across the entire planet. As Zara stood with her father, Jason, Lisa, and all the others who had fought alongside her, watching the sun rise on a world forever changed but still free, she felt a profound sense of both triumph and responsibility. The aliens had been defeated, but the scars of the invasion would take time to heal. The human collaborators who had aided the aliens were still out there, and the damage to the planet, the very thing that had driven them to consider such a drastic solution, remained a pressing issue. But looking at the determined faces around her, Zara knew that humanity was up to the challenge. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. Whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together. As the first rays of sunlight bathed the ruined but unconquered landscape of her hometown, Zara Mitchell, the unlikeliest of heroes, took a deep breath and stepped forward into humanity's hard-won future. The story of the alien invasion would be told for generations to come, but for Zara and all those who had stood with her, it was more than just a tale of victory against impossible odds. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope, courage, and the bonds of fellowship could overcome any challenge. As Zara looked out at the new dawn, she knew that whatever the future held, humanity would face it united, stronger, and more resilient than ever before.